Welcome to the session on methodology and perspectives of humanities and philosophy. Coherence theory of truth. Meaning and importance of the problem of truth. Truth is one of central subjects in philosophy. Philosophers often ask questions like what is truth or what is time, rather than questions like is that statement true or what time is it. Philosophical questions are of the form what is X. According to Socrates, such questions are terribly important because if we do not know what X is, we cannot tell something is an example of X. For example, if we do not know what a man is, how can we say that Rama is a man? Or if we do not know what truth is, how can we tell a statement is true or false? So, knowledge of truth is important in philosophy. The term truth has a variety of meanings. Some of these meanings are: truth is a state of being in accord with fact or reality. It can also mean having fidelity to an original or to a standard or ideal. In a common usage, it means constancy or sincerity in action or character. The direct opposite of truth is falsehood. Epistemology. The term epistemology is derived from the Greek words episteme and logos. Episteme means knowledge and logos means science or discourse. Thus, epistemology means theory of knowledge or science of knowing. It is considered as the most important branch of philosophy. It investigates the problems relating to the origin of knowledge, nature and validity of knowledge, limits of knowledge and the conditions of knowledge. The sources of knowledge, the methods of achieving knowledge and the methods of evaluating knowledge claims also form the concerns of epistemology. In brief, the problems of epistemology can be stated as problems relating to the source of knowledge and problems relating to the validity of knowledge. Kinds of knowledge. The word know can be understood as to recognize, to identify, to distinguish, to be acquainted with, to apprehend or comprehend a fact or truth. Three different uses of the word are identified. 1. Knowledge by acquaintance. I know my friend John is an example of knowledge by acquaintance. In this kind of knowledge, we have personal and direct experience with the objects in the world, our thoughts and sensations. I know my friend John means I am acquainted with him. Our knowledge of personal feelings and experiences is a kind of knowledge by acquaintance. Perceptual knowledge is also knowledge by acquaintance. For example, we see a color in front of us or hear a sound. 2. Competence knowledge or skill knowledge. I know how to write English is an instance of skill knowledge. This is know-how. You may know how to ride a bicycle or use a computer. Competence knowledge involves the ability to do something or perform a skill either consciously or unconsciously. 3. Propositional or descriptive knowledge. Example of propositional knowledge can be stated as: I know that sun will rise tomorrow, or S knows that P, where P is some statement or proposition. Proposition is the object of propositional knowledge. It is a kind of assertion which claims that something is the case. So, proposition refers to what is being asserted or stated or claimed. Propositions or assertions have truth value, that is, they are either true or false. Truth or falsity is a property of the assertion or proposition. Truth is the property of an assertion which says that things are a certain way when in fact they are that way, and an assertion is false when it says that things are a certain way when in fact they are not that way. Epistemology is concerned with the propositional knowledge, and hence questions relating to nature of truth are basic to epistemology. What is truth? What is meant by saying that a particular statement is true or false? Truth cannot be solely a function of ideas. If it is true that there is a cat in the bathroom, then there must be a cat in the bathroom, not just any impression or idea of cat. Further, is truth different for different people who have different ideas and intellectual habits? Does it make sense to say that what is true for one person might nevertheless be false for someone else? Since truth is one of the conditions of knowledge and the goal of knowledge, philosophers have attempted to answer the question. In the history of philosophy, philosophers have attempted to explain the meaning of the concept of truth in different ways. Three of these explanations are important: the correspondence theory of truth, the coherence theory of truth, and the pragmatic theory of truth. Coherence theory of truth. A theory of truth is essentially an explanation of the nature of truth and a set of laws that true things obey. Correspondence theory of truth attempts to establish relation of truth and reality. Hence, a statement is true if and only if the world it describes is real. Truth corresponds to the facts. For instance, the statement "snow is white" is true in virtue of the fact that snow is indeed white. Problem with the correspondence theory of truth. There are several problems with this theory of truth. One major problem is that this definition of truth relates two things that are very different in nature. Also, it is not clear how we can find a correspondence between things that belong to different realms. Precisely, a statement such as "snow is white" is a mental object. It is in my head. The reality we compare it with is made of objects such as snow. A statement is made of a number of words. The reality it refers to is made of objects and properties of objects. The question is there truly a correspondence between the words snow is white and the fact that snow is white? How can we compare two things that are different in nature, like a mental object and a physical fact? This point is important because we are supposed to define truth outside us. Truth must not depend on us, it must depend on the world. Something is true not because I think so, but because there is some objective truth out there in the world. If this is the case, the problem is, how can a mental object like a statement relate to an object that is outside the mind? The correspondence theory of truth assumes that the definition of truth is in the world. However, one can object that everything is ultimately in the mind and therefore, the definition of truth is inside us. If so, it is pointless to look for a definition of truth in the world. Idealists believe this. This leads to a different theory of truth. Truth can no longer be defined as the correspondence to the facts of the world, but has to be defined as the correspondence with the facts of the mind. Coherence theory of truth. A coherence theory of truth states that the truth of any proposition consists in its coherence with some specified set of propositions. The coherence theory differs from its principal competitor, the correspondence theory of truth, in two essential respects. 1. Relation between propositions, and 2. Their truth conditions. According to one, the relation is coherence. According to the other, it is correspondence. The two theories also give conflicting accounts of truth conditions. According to the coherence theory, the truth conditions of propositions consist in other propositions. The correspondence theory, in contrast, states that the truth conditions of propositions are not other propositions, but rather objective features of the world. The coherence theory defines truth in relation to thought. A statement is true when it coheres with a system of other propositions or beliefs. This way of explaining truth implies that truth is defined by reference to thought or reality. Truth depends upon the relation between propositions, and the relation between propositions is called the relation of coherence. Something is true when it fits neatly into a well integrated body of beliefs. This is the essence of the coherence theory of truth. Truth is defined by the set of coherent statements that make up a whole system of beliefs. Idealist group of philosophers believe that this is the definition of truth in general. We can never be sure of the world. Therefore, we can only assess whether a statement is coherent or not with our beliefs. Truth consists in a relation of coherence between beliefs or propositions in a set. A belief is false when it fails to fit with other mutually coherent members of a set. In the coherence theory of truth, what is important is not the relation of a proposition to a fact, but the relation of a proposition to other propositions. They claim that this theory of truth is applicable not only to aesthetics and sociology, but scientific theories as well. Coherence theory of truth is advocated by the idealist group of philosophers. Blanchard says, "Truth is the approximation of thought to reality. Truth is defined in relation to thought. A proposition is said to be true if it is both self-consistent and coherently connected with our system of propositions as a whole. For example, the validity of the conclusion of a syllogism consists in the coherence of the major and minor premises with the conclusion. Thus, in coherence theory, what is important is not the relation of a proposition to a fact, but the relation of a proposition to other propositions." Idealists like Bradley argued that reality was a unified and coherent whole, which he called the absolute. Parts of the whole could only be partly true, and even those parts were doubtfully true given the uncertain nature of our sense perceptions. Hence, it is better to base truth in our rational faculties and look for consistency and interdependence in what our thoughts tell us. To be more precise, a true proposition is true by virtue of its legitimate membership in a system whose individual parts are related to each other by logical necessity. Truth is a whole whose parts are harmoniously conjoined. Consistency and entailment. One of the issues discussed in the coherence theory of truth is the issue of coherence relation. According to some thinkers, the relation is simply consistency. On this view, to say that a proposition coheres with a specified set of propositions is to say that the proposition is consistent with the set. Truth consists in the coherence of consistent propositions. Consistency between propositions is the mark of truth. It follows that all consistent propositions are true propositions. Ideas can be consistent, but not true. Critics argue that consistency between propositions is a necessary condition of truth, but not a sufficient condition of the truth of the proposition. Coherence relation is also explained as entailment. This means that a proposition coheres with a set of propositions if and only if it is entailed by the members of the set. The relation of coherence is mutual explanatory support between propositions. This is explained as the relation of entailment. The second issue in this theory is regarding the set of propositions with which true propositions cohere. It is related to the constitution of the specified set of propositions. Coherentists hold that there is a set of proposition believed or held to be true. The question is who believes and when. Three possibilities can be identified. 1. The specified set of propositions is the largest consistent set of propositions currently believed by actual people. 2. The specified set consists of those propositions which will be believed when people with finite cognitive capacities have reached some limit of inquiry. 3. The specified set contains the propositions which would be believed by an omniscient being. Doctrine of internal relations. Idealists are led to a coherence theory of truth by their metaphysical position. To the objective idealist, the absolute is the object of knowledge. Advocates of the correspondence theory believe that a belief is ontologically distinct from the objective conditions which make the belief true. Idealists do not believe that there is an ontological distinction between beliefs and what makes beliefs true. From the idealist perspective, reality is something like a collection of beliefs. Consequently, a belief cannot be true because it corresponds to something which is not a belief. Truth is not a content to world relation at all. Instead, the truth of a belief can only consist in its coherence with other beliefs. It is a content to content or belief to belief relation. Far from being a matter of whether the world provides a suitable object to mirror a proposition, truth is a matter of how beliefs are related to each other. Coherence is not a relation between independently identified contents, and so finds it necessary to appeal to significant wholes. Reality constitutes a single term known as the whole. Hence, one judgment is not external to another judgment. Judgments are internally related so that they stand or fall together. The doctrine of internal relations signifies that each member of the system necessarily implies every other member. Hence, a statement is true if it is consistent with every other known parts of the system, or at least it must not contradict with what is already known. The theory of internal relations is the opposite of the theory of external relations held by the realist group of philosophers. Two terms are said to be internally related when each modifies the other and neither would be what it is apart from its relation to the other. In organic wholes such as living beings, the relation between part and whole is such that no single part can survive without the other parts. For example, lungs and heart are internally related in the sense that one cannot function without the other. Metaphysics of Monism. The axiom of internal relations leads to monism, the view that reality is one. The concept of ultimate reality as a single reality conceives all differences and discord as internal to it, since nothing can fall outside reality. Reality is an all-inclusive concept, and appearances are not external to reality, but are regarded as part of reality. Doctrine of degrees of truth. Another feature of the metaphysical position of the idealist philosophers is the doctrine of degrees of truth. A coherence theory of truth usually leads to the view that truth comes in degrees. Truth in its ideal form is to be found only in the absolute or the whole. If truth is essentially the whole, then individual parts will not be completely true. Individual parts are only partially or contextually true. They can be true to a certain degree. This is the doctrine of degree of truths. A belief is true to the degree that it coheres with other beliefs. We can never know the truth, but only partial or fragmented truth. Nature of error. The nature of error is important in this analysis of truth. A judgment is true if it is consistent and coherent with the body of judgments. The more it is consistent and coherent, the more true it is. Hence, an erroneous judgment is not completely false, but it is partly true. An erroneous judgment is a matter of degree. For example, a completely true account is an impossibility for a historian. In the study of history, context is enormously important. The truths of any one period of history are only relatively true, and the absolute truth subsumes all relative truths within itself. Criticism. Coherence theory of truth is subjected to several criticisms. The specification objection. Realist philosopher Russell has put forward the specification point. It says that the coherence theorists have no way to identify the specified set of propositions without contradicting their position. The specification objection charges that coherence theorists have no grounds for saying that a proposition is true in spite of the fact that it coheres with a set of propositions. But coherents do not believe that the truth of a proposition consists in coherence with any arbitrarily chosen set of propositions. Rather, they hold that truth consists in coherence with a set of beliefs or with a set of propositions held to be true. The Transcendence Objection. This criticism charges that a coherence theory of truth is unable to account for the fact that some propositions are true which cohere with no set of beliefs. According to this objection, truth transcends any set of beliefs. Opponents of the coherence theory will conclude that there is at least one true proposition which does not cohere with any set of beliefs, but it is seen that some versions of the coherence theory are immune to the transcendence objection. A version which holds that truth is coherence with the beliefs of an omniscient being is proof against the objection. Every truth coheres with the set of beliefs of an omniscient being. The notion of consistency has been subjected to serious criticism. According to the notion of consistency, truth consists in the coherence of consistent propositions. The question is, can the reference to facts be completely eliminated? If we modify the coherence theory and accept coherence with facts or coherence with experience, we are really admitting the element of correspondence. The alleged independence of the principle of coherence has been questioned. What is the status of the coherence principle, just as what is the status of the verification principle? It is argued that the coherence principle is part and parcel of the whole absolutist metaphysics, but the question remains as to whether a particular proposition coheres or not. Now, let us summarize. Apart from these objections, coherence theory has contributed to the discussion on truth mainly in two respects. One, it reminds us of the problem of relation between truths and truth. Secondly, it reminds us that the concept of fact is relative to the questions posed by the inquiring mind. Idealism advocates the coherence theory of truth, which speaks of the relation between propositions. Coherence theory accepts the position of internal relations, the metaphysics of monism, and the theory of degrees of truth. Here are some assignments for you to work out. 1. Explain propositional knowledge. 2. Discuss the metaphysics of idealism. 3. What are problems of degrees of truth? 4. Notion of whole and part. Explain. 5. Critically evaluate the theories of truth. Here are some books for your further reference. 1. Introduction to Philosophy by George Thomas Whitepatrick and Frank Miller Chapman, Houghton Mifflin, 1935. 2. Introducing Philosophy, a text with integrated readings by Robert C. Solomon, Oxford University Press, USA, 2004. Thank you for watching this session. We will meet again with another topic in another session. Till then, bye.